Today we're diving deep into one of the most enduring and influential books on personal finance, The Richest Man in Babylon by George S. Clason. First published in 1926, this little book has stood the test of time, offering timeless financial wisdom through a series of parables set in the ancient city of Babylon. Over the past century, it has inspired millions of people around the world to take control of their finances and set themselves on the path to wealth and financial independence. But what makes The Richest Man in Babylon so special? Why has it remained a go-to resource for anyone seeking to improve their financial situation? Today, we'll explore the key lessons from this classic and see how these ancient principles are still relevant in today's modern world. By the end of this video, you'll understand why this book is often hailed as one of the best personal finance guides ever written. Before we jump into the core lessons of the book, let's take a quick look at the fascinating backstory that sets the stage for The Richest Man in Babylon. The book begins with a story that, according to legend, took place over 80 years ago in 1934. An archaeology professor at the University of Nottingham in England received 5 clay tablets from an excavation site in Babylon. When he deciphered the cuneiform writing on them, he was surprised to find that they didn't contain dry historical records as he expected. Instead, they told the emotional, first-hand account of a man named Dabasir who had been a slave in Babylon. Dabasir's story was about how he overcame debt and eventually became wealthy. What's even more intriguing is that the professor and his wife were deeply in debt at the time they discovered these tablets. Inspired by Dabasir's story, they decided to follow his method, and to their astonishment, it worked. By applying the ancient principles outlined in the tablets, they were able to pay off their debt and start building wealth. This incredible tale is actually taken directly from The Richest Man in Babylon, and it highlights the power of the book's financial principles. Now let's talk about the author behind this timeless classic. George S. Clason was a successful entrepreneur in the early 20th century. He founded the Clason Map Company of Denver, Colorado, and published the first road atlas of the United States and Canada. But it wasn't his map-making skills that made him famous. In 1926, Clason began issuing a series of pamphlets on thrift and financial success, using parables set in ancient Babylon to illustrate his points. These pamphlets were distributed by banks and insurance companies and quickly gained popularity. Eventually, the most popular pamphlets were compiled into a book and published under the title The Richest Man in Babylon, which has since become an inspirational classic in the world of personal finance. Clason's ability to take complex financial concepts and present them in simple, easy-to-understand stories is what made his work so influential. He was a pioneer of modern financial self-help, and his teachings continue to resonate with readers today. So, what exactly does this nearly 100-year-old book have to teach us about money management in the 21st century? Surprisingly, quite a lot. The basic principles of wealth building haven't changed, and Clason sums them up beautifully through the tales of Babylon's wealthiest inhabitants. These ancient lessons are just as relevant today as they were when the book was first published. Let's start with one of the most fundamental aspects of personal finance: saving. This is where the book's wisdom truly shines, and it's a lesson that's often overlooked in today's consumer-driven society. Part 1. The Art of Saving. When it comes to saving money, many people think it's simply a matter of earning more. The more you earn, the more you can save, right? But Clason's parables challenge this assumption. According to the financial gurus of Babylon, saving isn't about how much you earn, it's about how much you keep. And they emphasize one key point: if you set aside just 10% of your income, you'll be well on your way to growing wealthy without significantly impacting your lifestyle. This idea is illustrated through the tale of Arkad, a humble scribe who started with nothing but eventually became the richest man in Babylon. Arcad's story is incredibly relatable. Like many people starting out in life, he worked hard for a modest income that was quickly eaten up by living expenses. Despite his meager earnings, Arcad always believed that he could become wealthy if he just found the right method. One day, Arcad's life took a turn when he met a generous and wealthy man named Algamish. Impressed by Arcad's determination, Algamish took him under his wing and shared some powerful financial advice. Start saving 10% of your income, no matter how small it may seem. This simple act, Algamish insisted, was the key to transforming a humble scribe into a wealthy man. At first, Arcad was skeptical. He wondered how he could possibly save 10% of his income without drastically reducing his standard of living. Wouldn't he have to sacrifice his comfort and live on the edge of poverty to save that much? But Algamish quickly dispelled this limiting belief. He explained that the money Arcad saved wouldn't just sit idle. Instead, each copper coin would become his employee, working tirelessly to earn more money for him. In Algamish's words, "Every coin you save is a slave to work for you. Every copper it earns is its child that also can earn for you." The real key, then, is not just saving money, but making that money multiply by putting it to work. As the original amount grows, so does the interest or return it generates, creating a snowball effect that accelerates wealth accumulation. Despite his initial doubts, Arcad decided to follow Algamish's advice. He made a pact with himself to save 10% of his earnings no matter what. And a funny thing happened. He found that he didn't even notice a difference in his lifestyle after skimming that 10% off the top. Sure, there were temptations along the way. As he strolled through the bustling bazaars of Babylon, the sight of luxurious goods and enticing delicacies was hard to resist. But the thought that he was building up a nest egg strengthened his resolve. Over time, Arcad began to invest his savings in ventures that would generate even more wealth. After some initial missteps, he started to see his wealth steadily grow. Algamish, impressed by Arcad's progress, made him a partner and entrusted him with managing his vast estates. When Algamish eventually passed away, Arcad inherited a substantial portion of his fortune. But even with this newfound wealth, Arcad didn't rest on his laurels. He continued to work hard and invest wisely, eventually becoming the richest man in Babylon. The moral of Arcad's story is clear. Building wealth doesn't require a huge income or a life of extreme frugality. It starts with the simple but powerful act of consistently saving 10% of what you earn and then making that money work for you. This ancient principle still holds true today. In fact, the very same method that propelled Arcad to wealth in ancient Babylon is the one that the British professor and his wife used to pay off their debt when they followed the example of Dabasir, the former slave. It's a strategy that can work for anyone, regardless of their income level or circumstances. As Arcad grew older and more prosperous, he remained committed to sharing his knowledge with others. When he reached the ripe old age of 70, a unique opportunity presented itself. The king of Babylon, recognizing that many of his subjects had fallen on hard times, decided to take action. The kingdom had recently completed a massive public works project, building walls, roads, and palaces that had brought a lot of money into the economy. But now that the work was done, many citizens were struggling to make ends meet. In his wisdom, the king realized that the best way to help his people was to teach them how to help themselves. He selected 100 promising young men from across the kingdom and sent them to study under Arcad, the richest man in Babylon. The goal was for these young men to learn the secrets of wealth building and then pass that knowledge on to the rest of the population. What was the very first lesson that Arcad imparted to these would-be millionaires? You guessed it. Save 10% of your income. Arcad didn't just preach this principle, he provided actionable examples to help the young men put it into practice. For instance, he advised a young egg merchant to set aside 10 eggs from each morning's inventory into a separate basket and only take out 9 for personal use. By following this simple practice, the basket would eventually overflow, symbolizing the accumulation of wealth over time. Arcad also emphasized the importance of controlling one's expenditures. He encouraged the young men to live comfortably on 90% of their earnings, rather than succumbing to the temptation to spend every coin they made. As they adhered to Arcad's method, the young men's purses began to fatten, and they started to see the results of their disciplined saving habits. This is how Babylon became known as a city of enormous affluence. The citizens industriously worked to better their lot, guided by the principle that the most pressing duty was to learn how to accumulate riches. The book emphasizes that growing wealth is not a matter of luck or circumstance, but rather an exact science. The principles are basic, yet they are often overlooked or misunderstood, leading many people to struggle financially. The story of Dabasir, the former slave who inspired the British professor, is another powerful example of the transformative power of these principles. Dabasir was born a free man in Babylon, but his reckless spending habits landed him deep in debt. Overwhelmed by his obligations, he fled Babylon and ended up as a slave in Syria. But fate had other plans for Dabasir. His master, recognizing his intelligence and potential, allowed him to earn his freedom. Dabasir returned to Babylon with a burning determination to conquer his debt once and for all. Dabasir's strategy was simple yet effective. He divided his income into 3 parts: 70% for living expenses, 20% for repaying his debts, and 10% for saving. By following this plan religiously, Dabasir was able to pay off his debts one by one. He also began investing his modest savings in ventures that could generate additional income. Dabasir had a special talent. He was an expert in camels. He knew everything there was to know about these hardy beasts, from their breeding and care to their market value. Leveraging this expertise, Dabasir began buying high-quality camels and selling them at a profit. Slowly but surely, he built up his wealth, and in time, he became a prosperous and respected citizen of Babylon. The lesson from Dabasir's story is clear. Wealth building doesn't require a stroke of luck or a miraculous windfall. It's about making consistent, disciplined choices over time. By saving just 10% of your income and putting that money to work, you can gradually build a fortune, just as Dabasir did. Part 2. Investing wisely. Welcome back. Now that we've covered the importance of saving at least 10% of your income, it's time to explore the other crucial skill you need to achieve lasting wealth: investing your hard-earned nest egg to make it grow over time. There are countless investment vehicles and strategies out there, but according to our Babylonian financial role models, one principle rules them all: protect your principal at all costs. In other words, never lose sight of risk in pursuit of higher returns. Let's delve into this concept through another one of Arcad's enlightening stories. After Arcad started saving diligently, he quickly realized that simply hoarding his savings wouldn't make him rich. The real key to wealth was to make his money work for him by investing it wisely. But like many novice investors, Arcad made some mistakes along the way. One of Arcad's earliest investment blunders involved a bricklayer who presented him with an enticing opportunity. The bricklayer had met some Phoenician traders who claimed to have a stash of rare jewels. They offered to sell these jewels to the bricklayer at a bargain price, with the promise that he could resell them in Babylon for a hefty profit. However, The bricklayer didn't have enough money to buy the jewels on his own, so he approached Arkad for a partnership. If Arkad fronted the funds, they would split the profits. To Arkad, this seemed like a no-brainer, a 50% stake in a lucrative deal without lifting a finger. How could he resist? Unfortunately, the jewels turned out to be worthless glass baubles, and Arkad lost his entire nest egg in the process. When Algamish heard about this disaster, he sat Arkad down for a serious chat. Arkad had made a rookie mistake. He took financial advice from someone who had no expertise in the venture at hand. Would you trust a bricklayer's assessment of gemstone values? Of course not. That would be like letting your barber perform open-heart surgery on you. Yet, many people fall victim to similar schemes, entrusting their money to those who lack the necessary knowledge and experience. Fortunately, Arkad learned from his mistake. After rebuilding his savings, he made a much more prudent investment. This time, he backed a bronze shield maker who needed capital to purchase metal. The craftsman had a solid reputation and a proven track record, making it a reasonably safe bet. Sure enough, Arkad received regular dividends on his investment, and with this first taste of legitimate gains, he was on his way to amassing a fortune. The lesson here is clear. Growing money steadily is the key to lasting wealth. And it's crucial to rely on advice from those with bona fide knowledge and expertise rather than jumping at every seemingly lucrative opportunity that comes your way. This principle of protecting your principal can be summarized by one of Clason's most famous quotes: "Better a little caution than a great regret." It's a reminder that in the pursuit of wealth, it's essential to balance ambition with wisdom. Part 3. The importance of consistency. As Arkad's wealth continued to grow, he realized that another important factor in building wealth was consistency. Whether it was saving money, investing wisely, or controlling expenses, consistency was the thread that tied all these actions together. It's not enough to make a few good decisions here and there. You need to establish habits that will sustain your financial growth over the long term. One of Arkad's parables illustrates this beautifully. It's the story of a young man named Rodan, who received 50 gold pieces as a reward for his service to the king. Overwhelmed by this sudden windfall, Rodan was unsure what to do with the money. Should he spend it all on luxuries, invest it, or perhaps give it away to those in need? Rodan sought the advice of a wise moneylender named Mathon. Mathon warned him of the dangers of impulsive decisions and urged him to be patient and thoughtful with his newfound wealth. He shared a tale of a merchant who had borrowed money to start a business but lost everything because he hadn't planned carefully. Mathon's advice to Rodan was to invest his money in something that would provide consistent returns over time rather than risking it on a venture with uncertain outcomes. Mathon's wisdom is a reminder that wealth building is a marathon, not a sprint. The key is to make steady, consistent progress rather than chasing after quick wins. Whether it's investing in a business, real estate, or stocks, the most successful investors are those who stick to a plan and make decisions based on sound principles rather than emotions. Another powerful example of consistency in action comes from the story of Dabasir, the former slave. We've already discussed how Dabasir managed to pay off his debts by following a disciplined plan of saving and investing. But what's even more impressive is how he maintained this discipline over time. Even after Dabasir had paid off his debts, he continued to live by the same principles that had brought him success. He didn't allow himself to fall back into old habits of reckless spending or financial neglect. Instead, he kept saving, kept investing, and kept building his wealth. This consistency is what allowed Dabasir to transform his life from that of a slave to a prosperous and respected citizen of Babylon. Part 4. The Power of Knowledge. Another key theme in The Richest Man in Babylon is the importance of financial education. Arcad often emphasized that true wealth comes not just from having money, but from understanding how money works. This is why he invested time and effort in learning from those who were wiser and more experienced than himself, like Algamish and the Shieldmaker. Arcad understood that the more you know about money, the better equipped you are to make it work for you. This is why he encouraged others to seek out financial knowledge, whether through books, mentors, or experience. In today's world, financial literacy is more accessible than ever thanks to the wealth of information available online, in books, and through educational programs. Yet, many people still struggle to manage their finances effectively. One of the most important lessons in financial education is the concept of compound interest. As Arcad learned, when you save and invest wisely, your money doesn't just sit there, it grows. And as it grows, it starts to earn interest on the interest it has already accumulated. This is the magic of compound interest, which Albert Einstein reportedly called the eighth wonder of the world. Understanding compound interest is crucial for anyone who wants to build wealth over time. It's the reason why starting early with savings and investments can have such a powerful impact on your financial future. The earlier you start, the more time your money has to grow and multiply. But financial education goes beyond just understanding concepts like compound interest. It's also about learning how to make smart decisions with your money. This includes everything from budgeting and managing debt to investing and planning for retirement. The more you educate yourself, the more confident and capable you'll become in handling your finances. Part 5. Giving back. As Arcad's wealth grew, he also learned the importance of giving back to his community. In The Richest Man in Babylon, Clason emphasizes that true wealth isn't just about accumulating money for yourself, it's also about using your resources to help others. Arcad understood that wealth was a gift to be shared. He regularly gave to those in need, supported charitable causes, and used his influence to improve the lives of others. This generosity didn't just benefit the recipients, it also brought a sense of fulfillment and purpose to Arcad's life. In today's world, philanthropy and social responsibility are more important than ever. As individuals and corporations amass wealth, there's a growing expectation that they use their resources to make a positive impact on society, whether it's through charitable donations, volunteer work, or ethical business practices. Giving back is a way to ensure that your wealth has a lasting and meaningful legacy. Clason's message is clear. Wealth isn't just about financial security or personal comfort. It's also about using your resources to create a better world for everyone. And this, too, is a principle that has stood the test of time. Conclusion. In conclusion, The Richest Man in Babylon is more than just a book about personal finance. It's a guide to living a prosperous and fulfilling life. The principles outlined by George S. Clason, saving, investing wisely, being consistent, seeking knowledge, and giving back, are as relevant today as they were when the book was first published nearly a century ago. Whether you're just starting your financial journey or looking to refine your wealth-building strategies, the timeless lessons from Babylon can help you achieve your goals. Remember, wealth isn't just about how much you earn, it's about how much you keep, how you invest it, and how you use it to make a positive impact on the world. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into The Richest Man in Babylon. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And if you have any thoughts or questions about the book, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep saving, keep learning, and keep growing your wealth. See you in the next video.